Welcome to The Best Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Bradley H. Werrell, and we're here to explore options and potentials to help us grow as individuals and as a community with one another in these difficult times and challenging times. We're exploring all manner of potentials related to the human experience, physical, psychological, medical, spiritual. It's a wonderful opportunity that we now experience in this critical phase of our human evolution. And I welcome you to join us in our podcast, become more aware, and identify with people who are helpful and supportive of you in your efforts as a human being on this planet and elsewhere too. We're going to be meeting people who are doing things that are widely variant from what is so-called normal within our society, in the creative space, within the social space. Our common purpose, seeking to generate positive potentials to improve the lives of everyone in our sphere of influence, and to expand that sphere of influence so that we may positively influence others that are not yet engaged directly with us. That's the goal here. We will learn more about each other as we go. I wish you the very best. Thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of the Best Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradley H. Werrell. And today we're going to have a chat with Miss Linda Gerber, who happens to be a professional coach. She also happens to be my sister, and that's nice. In any case, we're working on developing a project which is called Verbal Street Fighting, which is designed to be a system of continuous improvement for a group of people for the purpose of improving their social functionality in verbal and nonverbal situations as they may occur in any environment that we find ourselves in. So I hope you enjoy this. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the buttons over there. That will help us a lot. And I wish you the best, and I hope you enjoy the show. What are we going to go discuss today?
I don't know. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about self-hypnosis, and then we can jump anywhere. And this is the reason. This is the question I have for you. I was observing a conversation between two people who were focusing on food and weight. That's where their focus was.
Okay.
And so I know for certain that the other one has tried every last little thing. And when I say try, like you try it until you get hungry, right? And then they go back to what they were doing before, and they're like, oh, the diet failed because, it lasted for like a day or so, but then the donuts got exciting. So anyway, so I know that as a backdrop. So to this conversation, I was hearing them talk about their goals. And the one woman who I know just doesn't stick with anything because it's much more fun to wallow the other way, was saying, I don't need to be a size 12 or a size 10 anymore. That's ridiculous. I just want to be able to walk. I'm like, well, I feel like that's a low bar. It feels low. So as I'm listening to this, I was thinking this about self-hypnosis, how you've chosen a goal that allows you to continue poor behavior that some part of is poor behavior, but because the goal, all I'm doing is trying to be able to breathe. And therefore I can so I had this conundrum between, you want people to choose goals that are meaningful and challenging, and it's meaningful and challenging to them and their perspective, not me and my perspective. But on the other hand, your mind is so good at thinking of excuses and just lowering the bar. So you think you're doing something, but really I feel like our bar could be a little higher. So your goal is allowing you to continue your poor behavior. And now you've allowed yourself to believe that, well, you're doing everything you can because the goal is just to breathe. I mean, what are you getting all upset about? So I'm just interested in this concept of, I don't know, maybe it's not self-hypnosis, but the what we tell ourselves and what we allow ourselves to believe as a lie to continue in the poor behavior that is taking us down. You know what I mean? It's kind of like all in there. So I wanted to, what do you think about that?
Oh, it's like, it reminds me of this time that I crashed the Subaru, the blue Subaru. Okay. So I was driving back from Snowville to Radford, Virginia on a wet night, and I was upset.
and I was going too fast on an unfamiliar road. And there came a turn, and this turn was sharp turn to the right, like about 90 degrees. And I tried to slow down, but I was going too fast, and I slowed down. And then I'm like, there's all these calculations and thoughts that are going through your head as you're crashing the car, okay? And it's like this. I think I can, if I go in the other lane, it's really not really 2 lanes wide. It's really maybe a lane and a half wide. It's not a wide road. And it's like, if I just go in the other lane, maybe I can make this turn. And then it's like, no, I don't think so. And then it's like, well, maybe I can avoid the farmer's fence post. Yes. And maybe I can avoid the tree. And that's pretty good, right? That's like, it's the same thing, right? So it's like you're continuously adjusting the dial and calculating the expense, because it's like expense. It's when we're making trades and we're making a conversation in our head that justifies the expense and the outcome that we're getting, right? So you're like you're trying to make a peaceful settlement with yourself for the choices that you're making, and you have to be at peace, otherwise you're just tormented all the time, right? And so so you don't get to pick how other people decide their values that they're going to.
No, exactly correct.
Okay, if they think that walking is good enough, well then I guess it is, because whatever they say is good enough. Is good enough.
And that's where the self-hypnosis comes, because
right.
I think you could convince yourself to keep dialing that back to good enough now becomes I'm blinking.
Oh my.
But when you were over at this other place, well, okay, so maybe the goal is I'm not going to be an astronaut, okay, because maybe that goal is a little bit over here. But on the other hand, maybe we can do something better than I just want to be able to walk. But maybe if I'm somebody who has knee pain or issues, maybe being able to walk that 3 miles is a pretty important and significant goal that really motivates them. So the question I wanted to consider for my clients was really about really taking a hard look at what you're saying and what you're agreeing to. You're making it in your terms, taking a hard look at that deal you've made between being comfortable and the expense you're going to have to spend. Because what I've seen the person do is annually dial back to something easier that allows wallowing.
You might have them explore the values that they're talking about. Like walking, that's not too ambitious, right? And it's like, is that how far walking, and how often, how fast, or whatever, and that allows you to do what, you know what I mean? And it's like they're explore the value that's added, which is I get to eat whatever I want or something like that, right?
And I think you're onto something here, because I could also ask people to envision, okay, let's say you've reached your goal. You've reached your goal. You can walk. Are you happy? Are we satisfied? Is that sufficiently motivating? And so maybe envisioning that end state, which is what you're saying. And maybe the answer is, yeah, I would be, if I could climb Mount McKinley, that would be great. So maybe that's it. Maybe it is helping people vision, because you're right. It's totally individual. It's not what I think about it at all.
That's right. The other issue will be something to the effect of, what pains are you willing to take to achieve your goal? And what pains are you not willing to take to achieve your goal? It's like, I think this dieting thing is funny, because it is like, it's just that diet was not, it didn't sit well with me, so I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, right? That's how I gauged that one.
And it's interesting because, and you've probably seen this in your practice, at the beginning of X diet, whatever it is, and I have this person in my mind, she would talk about these are all the 10 reasons why this is great. And I'm all excited. And this is just going to be so amazing. And I love it because it does all these things for me. Fast forward a week. No, I'm not doing it at all. And I'm talking about investment of not just, shopping differently and eating differently. I'm talking about investment of joining a particular program or buying these particular, so it's not without monetary cost as well as just the resources. But then that enthusiasm for it when it gets hard, or when it feels hard because you're giving up something, when that trade feels, I can't have that cream filled donut because it's not on whatever. When that feels difficult and hard, then we're like,
right. So there will be like an exploration there to consider what is it that is making it difficult. What is because there's emotional investment here, like your enthusiasm, right? But it's like the issue is this is what makes you fail. And it's like think about this one is like that diet didn't work for me, right? It's like that statement is false. Okay. No, it's like this. So I talk to smokers about this, right? The smokers are like this. They go, I like dealing with smokers because it's fun to mess with them. Okay. And it goes like this. The smokers like this. I'm like, they're in my office and I'm like, so how long did you quit smoking? Oh, I still smoke. No. You're not smoking right now. You quit. You're not smoking. Not right now. How long has it been since you had a cigarette? Right? Then it's like, they're like, because it's like, you know what I mean? You're not giving them signals that match the narrative that they have in their own mind. Because it's like, look, say you haven't smoked for 7 years and you pick up a cigarette now, are you smoking again? Well, right now I am, but then I can stop smoking again and I don't have to pick another one up, right? So it's like that diet didn't work for me, which is, you mean you quit the diet? You're not trying to do that diet.
What do you find if you had to think about the reasons, like why do people quit? Like, so I know you work with your folks on this. So what is the reason that they offer reasons, whether you believe them or not, whatever? What is the intellectualization of the reasons why they quit?
Quitting or
quit the diet. Like the diet didn't work for me. And like, oh, because
I don't care.
No, but what do they offer you is what I'm interested in. What do they say? It just didn't fit? Or
no, it's just like, it doesn't work for me, or I can't do that. Or they'll say things that are false that are like, I can't. Okay. They don't say I won't, which is, okay. So it will.
It's a choice. Yes.
That's right. So it's like, you have to turn it back into being their willful decision-making process that is causing them to behave the way they choose to behave. And people will invariably seek to make everything passive voice, which it wasn't me. The diet failed, right? Oh, the diet failed. Why? Because you didn't follow it. It's like the trail, the road to DC failed because I got lost. I ended up in Minnesota.
Okay.
The road
that's right.
Right.
But it gets back to this, and I think the connection to this book we're talking about is connected here, is because it's these stories people make up in their mind to justify where they are. So we're talking about in this book, this how to deal with on the spot, unprepared, difficult people that are presenting something difficult. And I can think of any reason to act in a particular way if I don't have control of my mind. So it's that being able to be in control of my thinking process, not letting my thinking process control me. So when I'm in that situation, I'm like, oh no, I know what to do. It's not fear. I'm not afraid of anything or how anyone perceives me. This is how I need to act.
Right. Right. It is like it comes. I think being able to do that, you have to recognize your own internal narratives and then manage them. When you can manage your own internal narrative, then you can posit a social narrative, which is what conversation is.
So when we were talking about, if you don't mind, we can switch gears to the book, because when we were, I have
my little book. I'm not prepared.
I have mine.
You're doing good.
I know. When we were talking about behavioral cognitive parsimony, I believe is my heading on page 2. And we were talking specifically about personal operating parameter limits. So intentionality, you need to make sure, and we were talking about briefly, need to make sure all those are in the green, like what is going on personally for you. So you're at your optimal level to respond to whatever. I think this conversation of mastering your own stories, mastering your own narrative, what's going is part of that.
That's
So
right.
being in control of my mind.
But it's more like it's like it will operate parsimony. The verbal parsimony, and it's all the parsimony is shortcuts. So it looks like intuition, and you don't think about it. So cognitive parsimony is I'm not thinking about a lot. I'm doing a lot and not thinking too much about it, because I'm like, that will be like riding the wave, you know what I mean? Like mastering the act, and I'm living it and acting it, and I'm not thinking about it, but I'm just in the groove of the moment, you know what I mean?
So then, yes, totally get where you're going. But will my outcome be impacted by my own state at that moment? So
Yeah.
if I'm hungry or angry or any of these other kind of personal things, or I have this weird narrative going in my head, if I'm in this particular situation, my shortcut, the outcome to my shortcut may look different than if I was in a better place.
That's right. So it's like like if you're hungry and annoyed and the person is in your face, you're going to do something to blow the circuit so you can go get something to eat and rest.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not even going to think about it.
But on top of that, and then I can be making stories about why I was justified in acting the way I acted. So if I could look at it in another state and say that was bad behavior, or I wish I hadn't acted that way, or I wish I had responded differently, I might have been able to do that had I not been hungry or annoyed or angry.
Right. And so what will happen is, I think it works like this: is when you're stressed, you're going to emotionally respond in a very rapid fashion that you're not thinking about. And then the justifications will come later when you're in a more relaxed
That's right.
state, in the shadow of the event.
That's right.
Right? When you're driving to parties or wherever you're going to go, that's not I have
But
no
what is
commercial interest there.
So when I act poorly, or there's everyone, always hear about how practice makes perfect, but I've never believed that, because practice just makes you get a groove of whatever that behavior was. So it doesn't make it perfect. It just means you're going to be acting the same. So if you practice badly, every time you see this person, you blow up, or see this kind of person, then you're always going to act like that. So it's going to take conscious, intentional reorientation of yourself to begin to practice differently in that regard.
Right. So learning. So that's high cognitive cost.
Yes.
It's expensive. Learning is expensive, because I have to. If you go, what the expense is the cost of paying attention, because your attention is the only thing that you have a very limited quantity of, and so what you attend to is what you get better at. So that's why you got to be careful with these little narratives. They're saying stuff like, "I can't do that," right? So you generate a narrative that empowers you, right? It's not that I can't do that, I just will not do it. It's a choice, and I'm now the agent in charge of deciding how that works. Whether or not I work with whatever it is that I'm working with. Now you're in an empowered position, right? So when the person is go ahead.
No, I was going to say, does it make a difference if you articulate that verbally or just in your head, in terms of its impact on you?
The first thought I have on that is that it shouldn't make a difference, but it's like, it probably does make a difference when you actually verbalize the conversational thread, because it's like to it's one thing to like kind of whisper it inside your head, but to materially manifest the verbiage is a different function. It engages more senses. So I think that it would make a difference if you say it out loud. It's better.
And I also think if you say it out loud in front of people. So now, you know, regard, even if it's the I can't or I won't, whichever way you do it, I think it matters if other people hear you making that act. It's something about, I said in front of people, I'm going to do this. So that's why they say, you know, when you're setting a goal, share it with a couple people, because it's accountability. Your brain gets involved with, well, now these people are going to be noticing.
That's right. You're like putting yourself on notice. It's like, yes, that's social reassurance or social fortitude, right?
And we talked about this also in the same area in terms of behavior. We talked about context, and we talked about it's different. The situation feels different if it's one-on-one versus it's one-on-many. So if you're facing a group, you're in a group setting, or just a one-on-one, you may be easier to act a particular way.
I think I will call this social fortification. So you're like you're solidifying your chosen identity in a way by making it a social assertion of it.
What did you call it? Social valid
Or fortification.
fortification. Either way, and that doesn't presume anything. It's just whatever
it is you're pushing out into the environment that is identifying you is what you're being fortified in. So that's when the patients say something goofy that I don't like, they're like, I bust them for hypnotizing themselves in front of me because they're saying they can't do something. I'm like, oh, that's not true. I don't even want to hear it. And it's like, you may not choose to do it, but you can, right? It's just so that I make them correct it, because now I'm busting their fortification, because I'm like, I'm not going to allow you to do something which I regard to be as harmful or self-harming, because it's lazy and it doesn't work for me. And it's my job is to fortify you in a positive direction.
And it's interesting because that gets back to our earlier conversation about these goals and saying them out loud. It is fortification is a good word, because that implies something that you build that is an external construct that can be moved, shaped however. So by saying, oh, my goal is I want to be able to walk, because that'll allow me to continue all these horrible things that I chose to do rather than changing them.
Yes.
So it fortifies me against maybe the disappointment of I'm not getting to where I want to go, or
it fortifies you against you're seeking. It's what it's seeking to do is fortify you against people making observations about
yes,
that you don't want to hear.
That's it.
Like those donuts.
I mean, it sounds so stupid, but that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Yes.
So it's like fortification versus the verbal reproach of the social environment, right? Look, I'm walking, damn you. Right. I like how you said getting somewhere. It's like it's really not getting somewhere, because it's like building a big fortification that is limiting.
It's stagnation, isn't it? Where I'm stagnating behind my fort. I can't move. I can make my fort bigger.
Walk, right?
Along my walls.
I call it. It's like some kind of. It's like limbo. You know what I mean? Limbo. The game.
Yeah.
Go under the bowl. It's like the lower and lower bar. It's like right, and it's like, okay, I don't know. It's like, what an interesting thing though it is. So that's verbal limbo. That person was playing verbal limbo and setting the bar lower and lower, and it's like it'll squeeze you down. It will make you fall to the ground. You will hit the ground eventually if you keep lowering the bar. And it's like, so we recognize that as a game that people can play. That's useful because it goes inside the book, because it's like, are you playing verbal limbo with yourself, right? But who is getting crushed down besides yourself, right? So now you have a name for that behavior, right? Which is, if I can just blink, I like that. It's very good.
And it's all individual, right?
Mhm.
So, and I'm not going to judge one, but that an individual has to make that, that's a personal conversation that you have to have.
Right.
I can't tell you from an external, but I can ask you the questions that are going to make you know you can if you wanted to. You're choosing not to,
That's
but you
correct.
could do it. Yes. I'm writing down verbal limbo
Yeah, good
because
job.
that's kind of fun.
Right. It's just a game.
So, what is on your mind today? So, mine was this question of self-hypnosis.
Yes, it doesn't. This verbal limbo thing has got me interested because it's like this. Because it's like, are you going to go over the bar or under the bar? Right?
So describe to me the bar lowering and me being crushed down is representative of me not being able to be strong and go on. What does that represent? Explain that to me
It's a weird
again.
choice. It's like, look, because we talk about the bar, right? And it's like, and we talk about lowering the bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that is in the context of seeking to go over the bar,
Yes.
right? But this is an under the bar game.
That's interesting. So I'm no longer seeking to go under. Over. So I
Change the
keep
game.
lowering it, and now my game is just to say safely under the bar.
Right. Right. Because after you lowered it, I mean, really, when you're getting to walking and breathing, I'm like, you really can't lower the bar too much, and you don't have to go over it. It's okay. Right.
Right. That's a great metaphor. I love that because a sense of going over it is a sense of being stepping up, moving forward. I mean, there's all this great imagery that comes with that, as opposed to staying under. I just get smashed and smashed and smashed. How low am I willing to go?
Right. Right. Oh
No, that's
my.
good.
So yeah, so it's like tricking that talking. What I would ask the person, that one is interesting because it's like you try to tease out how they picked that were for a goal. You know what I mean?
How they pick, like, I want to be able to walk.
Right. And what, like, is that like, that's not very specific. But it's walking is good, right? That's a very good thing to start. Like, where do you go? Right? Where do you want to go? Like, what do you want to do?
And the other thing, when you state your goals, I think I would say projecting totally on this conversation that I was completely eavesdropping on is that I think that the goal related in part to the person she was speaking with. So that sounded, I'm sure that could sound like I'm being rational. I'm not trying to be crazy. I just want health. But it's like, is that really real? Because on the other hand, I've heard it come out, I want to be vibrant and active and wear these, so I wonder if the goal she was articulating was also relation to the social conversation she was having with
Sure.
this other person.
Sure.
So it wasn't even maybe the really real one.
No.
But it is one that would be acceptable to this person you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's you end up with all this potentials like virtue signaling stuff. And
so what's real? Then right. What is your body and mind, like, what is it focus on? What is the North Star? If it changes all the time depending on who I'm signaling, whatever I'm signaling, how am I consistently going in a direction?
I think that's
over the bar.
The social environment's confusing because of that. And so it's like useful thing to have some kind of centering function, right, in our lives, which is to say that's you're anchoring your own self, right?
Anchor, that's a good word.
That is a good word. So anchoring your behaviors and your orientation so that you're properly oriented and moving in the right direction.
But isn't that old-fashioned? Isn't that right? Isn't that patriarchy? Isn't that white supremacy and all that kind of stuff, right? Because aren't I supposed to be now? I'm supposed to be situationally flexible and being able to, isn't that the mantra? So you're telling me I should have well, that sounds like I should have a center. I should have, something I can refer to. I should have.
Yes, it's normative. Well, see, because it's like, let's see, this is an interesting function because it's like, look, if you're entirely flexible and then you're without center, you're reactive. You are not an agent in the circumstance.
But I can pick up anybody's flag. I'm really good at changing flags. I can do different signals depending on who I'm around.
Yeah, that might be socially beneficial, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not very good at that, as you may tell.
But
I
I'm
was thinking
wondering.
about this when I was getting dressed this morning in my old-fashioned clothing. Yeah, it really was. And it was like this. And I'm like, it's just, I have to open the door. The screen is still hot. Goodness. So I was like this. I'm like getting dressed, and I'm like, I've been wearing clothes that look exactly like this for, in fact, not this time, but for 25 years. Okay, since I became a physician, when I was in med school, I would wear clothes that looked exactly like this, and it's like this, and it was by intention. So I'm anchoring my persona in this stodgy self. That the way that it looks, it's like very, because I feel like the patients are purchasing a show. Okay, and so I show that centered behavior. Does that make sense? It's just a visual signal.
That's that parsimony again, because I can look at the visual signals you're getting and I have an image in my mind and expectations. Like I see a uniform. This is the uniform of the doctor.
That's right. So it was a funny thing because it's like, so I got in trouble a couple times, 2 times during my first 2 years of medical school. This one right here, this one looks like a doctor. Shame on the rest of you. I'm like, oh, thank you. And it's okay. I got a lot of social pushback because I was doing that. Like I had people touching my clothes and you know, I mean, like I had to do some kung fu-y stuff on them, and I'm like, I went to the dean's office and I'm like, we might end up out back. I can't wait to get that check, Brad. Okay. But I was getting upset because it's like they're physically assaulting me because they don't like, because they're wearing sandals and shorts and stuff like that, right? These other guys, and I'm like, it's okay. I'm not telling them how to dress, but it's like just trying to do the job. Anyway, anyhow, that's so there's something to that. It makes it easy for people to understand what's going on, right?
Well, the other thing is if I downgrade what you're doing, that makes me feel better about what I'm doing. So I may not be meeting the mark, but if I can tear down the person who is meeting a mark above me that I think, and then I feel better about myself. I tear you down because that makes me feel better about my sandals and my shorts.
It's all right. Whatever floats your boat.
But being able to say that is that's a lot of development. I mean, that's a lot of personal development to have people like, you know what, if you need to do do what you need to do. I'm good. Because I have that strong center.
That's right.
Because I know who I am. I'm not depending on you to tell me who I am.
We'll talk about this. So you want to talk about anchoring and fortification then in that context, right? So you want to make sure that, so you're choosing the place where you anchor, right?
Do you have an anchor? Yes.
And
or maybe everyone anchors. Does everyone have an anchor? But
I think they do, because it's like you may choose to be, my anchor is unanchored, right? Mm-hmm. So my anchor is weighed up and in the boat. Does that make sense? So then I'm mobile. I anchor on unanchored.
I think that's an exercise in the book to know where you're anchored and to have a conversation about yourself, because I need to know that before I engage with these people. So if I'm engaging with a bully, who's just, I need to have a very strong sense of self to be able to stand like, yeah, no, we're not doing this.
That's right. That's right. So so then it's fortification. So you explore your own fortification, which is a self-identification, right? How do you identify yourself? Like, it's when the samurais will be fighting, right? Mm-hmm. The samurai will come up and they will identify themselves, like in the most rigorous fashion. Like, I am from the family, blah blah blah. And
Yes.
the detail, it's gotta go on for a while because we're gonna have a very personal thing happen here. Someone is gonna get cut.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
okay, right?
Yes.
And I come from this clan, from this town, from this place, and it's
This is the name of my sword.
I'm establishing the fortification,
Yes.
right? Because you sure you want to come outside and fight with me? Because I'm one bad dude, right?
So I'm establishing my credentials.
That's
Those are
right.
my yeah.
So I think it is a useful exercise to identify the anchors and where you draw power from. It's the well from which you draw power that you anchor to and you retreat to, that is inside your fortification, right? And know your fortification and adjust your fortification so that it optimally suits your interests.
So part of that would be to know where are the soft spots. Am I anchoring in sand or am I solid in rock? Or is my anchor made of sugar or is it made of steel?
Right. And it's like, I would say that the issue would be to study the words you use to draw your fortification and identification. So you would it's a good written exercise because it's like, then you can look at the words.
So tell me more about that. How would you see that? It would be like do a narrative, describe what gives you safety.
Okay, you're like, okay, describe your problems. Describe where you find these things. Okay, ready? Where do you find the conflict? Where do you find the rest? Where do you find the energy? Where do you find the peace? You know what I'm saying? And it's like those things, so that because it's emotionally.
Yes.
That's the exploration of the fortification and the well and the anchor.
Yes.
Now, but have to attach the emotionality to what real things in your real world, life, right? Because it's like the real deal is that's where you're resonating emotionally and how you're resonating. And then you now describe each of those locations.
Yes.
And how you relate to them, your relationship with that part.
Yes.
And then study the way you talk about it. And it would probably be useful to have someone else discuss it with you, because it's like, we got to make the verbal street fighting. I think it seems like you need to have a dojo approach.
A sparring partner, yeah.
Well, we're not really sparring. Yes, I get sort of like sparring, because it's like, okay, now you trade it with your partner. Everybody move your paper to the side, to the right. And now you're going to grade the partner to the left and talk about what they write your notes on that, right? And that could be part of the computer part of it, right?
I do think that is key, to have a community of like-minded people, all at different places, but a like-minded group of people working on this together.
I see this will make an anchor point, right? So it's like now we've established ourselves in our fortification, which includes a social environment that we're generating on purpose, for the purpose of making us more mentally fit for social interaction.
So on that other thing, what did I call it? It was the that other one, that the French version of this is the right. So one of the things that they do, I think, which is powerful, and I'm sure mess it up, but they
No, that was a very bad thing to say.
No, I'm not going to do it the French way. It probably sounds super smart, but so this is what it is. The essence of it is you think about different ways to frame things. So when somebody says to you, well, you really screwed that up, you could react really bad, or there could be part of you could say, there were some parts of it I could have done better. Can you tell me more about, so it alleviates the
tension.
Yeah, I can alleviate some of the tension by able to say, I could totally see why you could say that. What do you mean? And so now I'm not reacting like, right. So I'm being soft so there's some part of that too, being able to reframe or to look into what they're saying.
So we're studying so this is a reactive styles, okay? So this is another page.
Okay.
So reactive styles is like, so you have hard versus soft, okay? So you like think about these forts. We went to all these forts just for the audience, okay? Since they don't know us as well as we know us, right? We're going to help them to know us because it's so nice to know us, right? And it goes like this. In our wonderful childhood with our wonderful parents traveling across the wonderful United States so many times in our Volkswagen bus, right? We went to all the forts everywhere, all the right? Because our father is a historian.
Historical marker. Yes.
We got to read that. Oh my. So but so I'm going to make a historical analogy about forts and fortifications. There's two kinds of forts. There's the kind of fort that is made out of granite. It's just hard. The cannonball will bounce off of it or crack the rocks, right? That's a hard fortification. So that's when the person challenges you and say, fuck you. Okay? Boom, it just bounces off. Or I shatter, right? Okay. But Andrew Jackson fought the British in New Orleans with soft fortifications. Okay? And so the British are firing cannonballs at these mud walls, and it just goes, and nothing happens. Sucks up the cannonball. So it's like that's what you're doing when you do this, when you're doing this soft way, which is, of course, when they say, you really screwed that up. I know. What do you think about that? Right now you're doing the soft fortification. That's a perfect soft fortification.
I love that analogy. It totally goes with the fortification thing. You win. You get to go home. That was awesome.
Right, and I got to tell a story about our family. And that was cool too.
Bonus, total bonus. I love that. And so you can.
So we would do this. We would make challenges, right? So now we would make columns like this. Display, show me a hard fortification versus that social imposition versus a soft one. So make 4 soft ones or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then make like a series of 5 of them that go from hard to soft. Like what's the softest? I'm sorry. That's about as soft as it gets, right? Because I'm not even going to ask you for any further. Because it's harder when it bounces back a little bit is when I go, well, why do you say such a thing?
So that's interesting. That's right.
Hang on, I'm working. There's working going on between my ears right now. Okay. So I was talking to Kurt Doolittle, okay? And it was like there's term the law. And Doolittle talks about the law. He means natural law, okay? As opposed to what is commonly called law, which is when the government tells you to do something, right? Which is command, okay? So it's like this. So natural law is based on cooperation. As long as I don't harm somebody, I'm doing okay. I get to do anything I want, as long as I don't harm somebody, okay? So what I want to do is I wanted to map this premise onto this social interaction in the context of verbal street fighting, okay? Which is to say, natural law is based on cooperation. So that would be soft. And then hard as command is when you tell the person to go away because you're annoying me, right? So it's like I wanted to relate it to that because it's like, how is what is being said, can I cooperate with it is soft, right? And I'm not commanding you, but if I say, well, why would you say that? Now I'm I'm asking them to give me more feedback, right? And I could command them to, why would you say that? Tell me why you would say that. That's a command, right? And so you have a response potential that's ranges from completely cooperative into aggressive commanding. Domination, right? It's like that's a domination.
And on that spectrum of soft to hard, there's the overlay of what do I want at it? Like, what is the outcome I want? Because maybe I don't really care. I can be hard. I mean, so I have no, what is my emotionality about it? Did you just rile me up with some just like, or, so it is, there's an overlay on top of that hard to stop soft continuum. One of those elements is, what do I care about do I care about the outcome?
That's right. That's right. And it's like, okay, so let's think about this. Like, okay, we're having a social interaction and someone has now done something challenging of some nature. Okay. And what is it doing is triggering some emotional response, right? Because now you have to absorb the energy. You have to absorb the energy and feel out how am I going to respond, right? And it's like, what emotion is triggered? It makes a difference, right?
This is interesting. This falls right into this conflict coaching model, synergy, excellent conflict coaching, because they'll talk about what's going to trigger you is either going to be one of your values, it's going to be an unmet need, or it's going to be attack on your identity. So one of these triggers is going to be met, and being able to name it specifically is very helpful because that allows me to have some I'm now moving into my forebrain. I'm now thinking about this, and it's giving me a little bit of a space. I have a little space where I can choose how I want to react.
Right.
Which could be hard or soft.
That's right. And so the other thing, so you're like this, it's like, so that would be you would be able, that would be part of the self identification process by which you identify those triggers inside yourself, which will inside your fortification, right? And then I like this one is practicing doing different things. Okay, but this is a whole different premise, but I'm going to just introduce it here. We can talk about it another time later. It should be its own page probably, which is how do you time the way you interact? Okay.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so it's like this. Okay, so I'm being challenged because you really screwed that up, and it's like, well, I can explode right now. Or I can just go, look at you for a minute and then respond. And it's like, it's entirely different, right? The space, the timing of it gives me time to think about it as opposed to I can be immediately reactive or I can think about it and just let you think about what you just did and just look at you as a response, nonverbal response.
So that French thing is called verbal aikido. I told you. So verbal aikido. So verbal aikido, they call it dojos, and you come and you meet with people and somebody will present a thing. So this thing happened to me and this is how I reacted. And so then different people, you'll go around the group, they'll be you, how they would have reacted, and then you'll be the antagonist. So you see multiple ways of what people could have interpreted or said because they don't have the emotionality. Just exactly what you just said. Do they pause the timing, hard, soft? How did they hear what was said? And so it gives you another, a broader range to think about. Oh, I could have done all these different things. So that
like
sparring,
that's very good because it's like, I like some other players are acting like you. They're acting as though they were you. That's funny right there because it's so weird.
Right? You're like, oh, that sounded harsh. Okay.
I could do that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That's funny right there.
Because I think sometimes when we get in these awkward social situations for any number of things, you feel so stuck, and you don't feel like you have a range of tools. You feel like you've got some blunt instrument that may or may not be effective. But if you've seen, 10 other people do it 10 different ways, you're like, wait a minute, there are different options here. Like maybe that I can think about that for a second. I could go hard, soft, or something in between.
Well, what's funny is like, I can imagine this like, right. So like, it's just, it's just a bizarre premise. Like, okay, you're going to be me. And you happen to be a 23-year-old 5'2" female. Like,
that's right.
I don't know how that plays, but I'm like, well, what a 5'2" female version of me that's 23 act like in this circumstance? That's just
or it's going to be, this is what the 23-year-old said, but what would a mature white male say in that? Okay, now that's kind of interesting because he doesn't have, it's in total, I'm not trying to make you be in the same position. It's just here's another way to react.
That's right.
Here's another thought.
Right. No, I just find it's
Yeah.
the funniness of a whole nother person just trying to act like you in given those circumstances. You
But
know,
one other thing, and you would appreciate this too, that they talk about is words don't have one set, everyone understands the exact same meaning. Like words mean all sorts of different things.
that's right.
And so people interpret them different ways, which means I could interpret them in different ways.
That's right.
Like if somebody, so anyway,
That would be a good one. Like, okay, so someone says the affront, right? Or the calls you out in the social circumstance. It's like, well, you may have an immediate reaction, but it's like, whoa, is that really the intention that gets going into this utterance that's offending or causing irritation, right? Or behavior.
That's right.
And it's like, so you think about it. Think about it like for a minute, like not a minute, but give it some pause, right? Maybe you have some mantra that you say inside your head, like, what exactly does this really mean, right? Inside your head, and that makes you pause, right? And then you seek to find the answer, right?
That's helpful to know. What would we suggest as a kind of funny, memorable mantra? I love that idea.
Just say the thing.
I say WTF. Okay.
Oh
I mean, whatever. I mean, whatever it is. Well, something short.
Mixed audience. Oh my.
Oh yeah.
That's to be G-rated. Oh my.
So whatever it is, and I like that idea though, because it is when this situation happens, I pause, I say my thing, and then that gives me a second.
That's right. And but see, what you're trying to do is you're like giving an air gap, right? That's
yes.
how we talk about computers. They're not going to be on the internet right now because it's like the air gap is safe. We're not having any signals going in or out. We're just taking an air gap so that we can process that information a little bit.
Yes.
And then we're going to be cool. See, so that the response is not going to be explosive. It's not. We're softening up. Mm-hmm. And we're just gonna be super soft.
That's right.
Right? Conforming to the social circumstances best we can, which is water. Right? Water finds the shape of the vessel. And so the air gapping that's a term of art. Right?
So is that a tool or is that part of the react? And when you're thinking,
it's a tool.
Yeah.
That air gapping is our tool. So we're right. So the part of the air gapping process then will be this: is like what is the nature of the thing I'm responding to. Right? Because you told the story about the older fellow behaving inappropriately at the staff meeting.
Uh-huh.
And then you did perfect kung fu on him, right? With the discussion about the right. So it's like you go, oh, that was a joke with demeaning me by some threatening mechanism. Okay. So you take it and you just threaten him right back again, right? With EEOC.
And it's the words and it's the delivery matters too.
That's right.
So you do it with a smile.
That's right. Smiles are powerful. Mm-hmm. That's soft. That's very soft. But it's wicked.
But hard.
But wicked bad. It's okay. I like that. So you could, I like that one. Is this one with the air gapping, there is like this one. You feign hardness of hearing. I'm sorry, what did you say? Mm-hmm. Can you repeat that? That's powerful because it's like if they're inappropriate, they're going to have a hard time. They're going to have a hard time, and you're giving them a chance.
I've heard that as a means to respond if somebody says a joke, so they make a joke that they think is hysterical, but in some way it is offensive, whatever, to feign ignorance. It's like, well, I'm sorry. Why are fat women funny? And make them explain it.
Oh my.
So, but it is, you don't have to be all, you don't have to jump on a high horse. You don't have to, it is a different tool that you could take that also stops it, whatever it is.
Right. Right. So that would be like just a seek explanation, right?
Mm-hmm. But it also, delivery matters. So it has to be, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you help? What was that?
Right.
Blink, blink.
That's right. Two slow blinks. Goodness gracious. Yes, I don't know. So let's just review for a second where we have got so far in our little conversation.
Yes.
So we have this, so personal identification, okay? So that's our own individual self-identification. Okay. And that includes identification of our anchor points. There may be more than one. Identification of our wells and identification of our fortifications. That's social fortifications, and it's also the words we use to describe ourselves. Okay, that's one whole set. Okay, we've also discussed some I would call reactions and reaction styles ranging from hard to soft,
Mm-hmm.
and then a couple of techniques, right?
Some
Which
tools.
includes
Yes.
the air gapping and the seeking explanation.
I have air gapping, internal mantra, feigning ignorance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I like the verbal Aikido dojo premise of and I like this social grading function or like social group generation with a commonality of purpose, right? So that it's like that's going to be a powerful thing that will be of value, so that we generate like improve continuously improving. That's what it would be like terms of the art, right? Continuous quality improvement.
Because I think one of the big difficulties, no matter how good the training is, and I'm a huge fan of Arbinger. I'm a huge fan of the crucial conversations and crucial confrontations. All those I think are fabulous. But I think where they fall short, and that's just with training, is that after you leave the workshop, you're not practicing it anymore. So
Right.
I really do think there needs to be an ongoing practice.
So we would this will be forming an anchor point.
Yeah, it is an anchor point. That's right.
And it's like you did it with what was that public speaking, right?
Toastmasters.
Right. That's an anchor point.
Yeah. And it turns out that group becomes very helpful to you in addressing all sorts of deficiencies, perceived and otherwise, that you have in speaking. And this would be the same way here.
Right. So I think if we talk in a more technical way, which is like, it would not necessarily be live interactions. It might be. It might be asynchronous, like text. You know what I mean? Because what we try to do is make it easy to have access and use of that anchor point.
And maybe there could be different things simultaneously. It could be asynchronous and live. And you could choose which way you wanted to jump in.
That's right. That's right. And I like that as an interesting premise. Then, so we'll think about that. It's like, so the more we want to make it simple enough, because it's easy to get too complex, it's expensive. Then I have to think and stuff. Not that it goes against my cognitive parsimony.
Yes, I'm just not good at that. No, I'm not going to do it.
I will not do it. It's like, it's going to be too much work. And then expensive. Really, literally
Right.
Programming, oh my, actual infrastructure.
Right. Right. But I think this is, for example, I'd love to bring this as a case study because I can develop training where I work. And so I can, um, I can try out different bits of it with people to see
Right.
what is effective. Well, at least in that environment.
That's right. And it's like I think the biggest thing I'm taking back from today is this premise of study yourself and the words that you use to describe the things that you encounter and engage with and the emotionality associated with them. Okay. And so it will be identifying I guess we would do like maybe, I think it will be useful to like make a diagram that has the basic emotions. Okay. And then attached to the ends of the star, it's going to be some kind of star with points on it. Each one is an emotion, like a compass. And then it's like, what do you attach to that? Where does that attach in your life, in your experience, like your lived experience? Does that make sense? Like, my wife drives me nuts, and it's like, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
But it's interesting because I would, as maybe this is a coachy thing, but I would have to ask much more specificity because does she drive you nuts all the time?
No.
Or is it only when you don't put your underwear in the laundry basket and she's constantly harping? It's the nagging. You know what I mean? It's the specificity of what it is.
Right. So that is exactly right. But so it's like, so that'd be part of this graded purpose is but I think a star-shaped thing that has the emotions on it, where do you get that emotion in your life? And then it's like, then you describe it and then you pass it to the next person over and they'll ask questions or seek details or whatever it is, respond to that. And then it's back to you again.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it should be done in such a way that, like, I don't think that emotions are bad.
No,
like there's nothing good or bad about anger or fear, or sometimes it's fear. That's a right response when you see an alligator poke his head in the water and you have your feet there. That is an excellent response.
Right.
You should be embracing.
Right. And it's okay. Yeah, I view them as they're just like
it's like signals.
Colors. They're just like colors. Yeah, and it's okay. But it's important to understand how the points, see, if the emotions are anchoring, they're anchored in something in your life, and it's like, where are they and what are those things that are anchoring those emotions, so that you can understand yourself, because then you can once you understand yourself, you can comport yourself properly socially.
So if I did my wife, I get angry, and specifically when she nags me. And what is that about being nagged? I don't like being told what to do. I'm making this up. So in situations where somebody is bullying me and pushing me to do so, I'm going to react probably with anger because is that how you see that happening?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So our game plan is to understand ourselves and get the group to help us to do that. So that is to say, to tease out more detail, because it's not observable by the social group that we're interacting with to make ourselves better. So it's like, once we do that and that process goes on, now we have it's part of this self-identification process where we're getting a sense of ourselves. We have to be reflected. We see ourselves as part of what's going on, because it's like the person who entered is going to reflect somehow into this emotional wheel, and it's going to do something, right? And so it's like, how do I make it so that it charges me instead of discharges me?
That makes sense. So, for example, if somebody accuses me of doing something of which I know I'm innocent, like I have no emotion, like I don't react. But if there's some piece of it that hooks onto that star in some way, okay, then I'm going to start reacting because there's some piece of what you say.
There. You're
yes.
Hitting a button, man.
Yes.
Right. You're on target somehow.
Somehow.
And it may be right. So I think that the way I see it is to make that star so that it's like your trademark thing. You know what I mean? It's like It's just a thing. It's a tool, and we developed the tool, and that tool works in the circumstance of training program, right? So that our self-developmental group uses it in a strict, rigorous and regular fashion.
Yeah. No, that's
Right.
good. See, you're marketing. You're always thinking of that. That's good.
That's nice.
That's nice. Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Werrell. This is
It's
very
a pleasure
helpful.
to chat with you, Ms. Gerber, always. And we'll have another chat another time, probably next.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, so I will see. I don't know how fast he's going to post this, but we'll see what happens next.
Sounds good.
All right. You have a
See ya.
wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Best Medicine Podcast with Bradley H. Werrell, DO. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below, either over there or over there. Also, if you're interested in a medical consultation with myself, there's also information below.